All right, guys, so welcome into the full analytical rankings breakdown of the 2023 Sweet 16 teams, where we're going to go through, we're going to look at how each one of them stacks up, and then I'm going to show you guys kind of how I want to fill out my second chance bracket, things like that, tips and tricks, along with analytical score predictions for the upcoming games happening on Thursday and Friday. So just looking at the full 16 teams, you can see we'll just go down the line. You've got Houston still at number one overall, just barely. I mean, you could basically say Houston and Bama are 1A, 1B when you look at their overall ratings of 95-90 and 95-88. So very similar. Houston, they get by Northern Kentucky. They have an injury scare, but then they do dispatch of Auburn. I think that Miami matchup is a little bit tough for Houston. It's awkward because Miami likes to push the pace a little bit. Houston is very slow, but you still, analytically, you've got to just trust Houston for that one. Bama at number two, they are certainly the heavy favorite to come out of the South region, with really only Creighton having a chance to challenge them, in my opinion. Then you have UCLA, so UCLA dealing with some injuries they've suffered here towards the end of the season. That's what makes it tough to pick them. They're going to have a very tough matchup if they advance here with UConn, or is that matchup coming up? Oh no, it's Gonzaga versus UCLA, UConn versus Arkansas. So certainly, guys, I love UConn. If you know the analytics, they're top 20 in both. UConn and UCLA, both very good basketball teams. You're going to want to pick both of them to advance, unless you think Gonzaga goes crazy and makes a bunch of shots. They might be able to beat UCLA. Next, you have Tennessee. So a lot of us did not trust the analytical rankings on Tennessee, and I think rightfully so. With Tennessee, they were just so inconsistent towards the end of the season. They beat Louisiana by 3 points in round one. A lot of people picked them to lose to Louisiana. I picked them to beat Louisiana, but then lose to Duke. And they were underdogs as a better seed to Duke. They were 3-point underdogs. They end up easily dispatching of Duke using defense and just frustrating them. So Tennessee, you can see the number one overall defense. They're outside of the top 50 in terms of offense. They can still make a Final Four run, but because they are outside of the top 50 in terms of their offensive efficiency, they have 0% chance to win the national title, but they can still make a deep run. Next, you have Texas. So Texas is a team I really wasn't feeling, but I did correctly predict them to make it to the Sweet 16. Now, in my original bracket, I had them losing to Xavier, and that is the matchup that we will see. Now, Texas is favored in that matchup. You take a look at their 2 games in the tournament. The game against Colgate, it was kind of fluky to me. They made a bunch of threes while Colgate missed a bunch, when Colgate normally by far is the better 3-point shooting team. And then against Penn State, that win really didn't inspire much confidence. I thought they would beat Penn State, but it was a close game. Penn State came back. I believe they took the lead in the second half of that game. Texas ends up winning it. I know Texas is probably going to be a popular pick to beat Houston and make it out of that region. They are top 17 in both offensive and defensive efficiency, so I really can't hate on that prediction. It's just a vibe I'm getting. I think Texas loses this round against Xavier. Then you've got Gonzaga at number 8. They've got the best offense in college basketball. They've got a very bad defense outside of the top 80. So I do think Gonzaga, looking at their win against TCU, maybe a few red flags. They had to come back. They were down by 5. I'm not overly impressed with TCU. The good thing with Gonzaga, they can score with anyone. But against UCLA, I think they have met their match, and they're probably going to lose that game there. San Diego State at number 10. So San Diego State going to be very hard. I was one of the only ones, or I don't know if I was one of the only ones, but I did pick San Diego State to make the Sweet 16, and they did. A lot of people thought they were going to lose in the first round to Charleston. San Diego State, they've had an easier road. Charleston's good, but Furman really just wasn't very good. They got lucky to beat Virginia. So to me, San Diego State, the offense being outside of the top 50, I don't see any way they beat Alabama unless Bama just completely tanks from 3, because they do shoot a bunch of threes. But certainly San Diego State, probably all of us are going to be picking them to lose to Bama as 7-point underdogs. Then you have Creighton, so I'm actually very high on Creighton, and it's scary because they're so inconsistent, but they're starting to string together good games. And now you see Creighton with a dominant win over Baylor, a game in which they were leading by basically 10 points the entire second half, and they're top 23 in terms of offensive and defensive efficiency. I'm starting to really like this Creighton team as a 6 seed, and I do think we get a Creighton-Bama Elite 8 matchup, and I am leaning, well, I did take Creighton in my personal predictions because I just think Bama, the way they play, the three-pointers, if they're not going in against a team like Creighton that can score, that gets scary. And also Brandon Miller, maybe not healthy. He was 5 of 17. I don't know if he can heal in 4 or 5 days, but we'll see. Next, you have Arkansas at 18. So Arkansas, I think they just got a bad matchup. UConn is the best 4 seed in this tournament. And to me, UConn easily, I don't know if they easily beat Arkansas. I give Arkansas credit for winning games while not shooting well. You know, analytically, they're very good. Their offense is outside of the top 40, but still 18th overall. That's very acceptable for the Sweet 16 as an 8 seed. So they just got a bad draw versus UConn, in my opinion. Xavier at number 20. They're good on offense, bad on defense, but I do like them to beat Texas. They're just, in terms of their offense, scoring, I think they scored 48 points in the first half against Pittsburgh. I know it's Pittsburgh, and I know Xavier has had a really easy road so far, you know, facing Kennesaw State, almost losing to Kennesaw State, and then Pittsburgh in the second round is just a gift-wrapped, you know, Sweet 16 appearance. But I don't know, Xavier's offense, I'm intrigued with it. You've got Kansas State at 23. So Kansas State kind of surprises me that they're outside of the top 50 in terms of their offensive efficiency, considering the guard play. But they're a team that I think could make some noise being in that region with all the upsets already. You know, the 1 and the 2 seed out in that region. Next, you have Florida Atlantic. So FAU, you know, unique situation facing the 16 seed in the second round, right? I'm sure not a lot of people are picking them in terms of their game against Tennessee. I just think Tennessee is going to swarm them. They're too good defensively, but we'll see. Tennessee really struggles on offense at times, so maybe FAU can hit some threes and pull off an upset. Miami at 34. So with Miami, it's still the defense. They're outside of the top 100 in terms of defense. I can't pick them against Houston. I just can't do it. And then the last team ranked at 96 overall. It is the true Cinderella of this year. Yes, they are the Cinderella, not Fairleigh Dickinson. Fairleigh Dickinson had one of, if not the biggest upsets in tournament history, but you cannot be considered a Cinderella if you have to at least make it to the Sweet 16. So Princeton is the true Cinderella. I've got nothing against FDU, but if you want to be a Cinderella, you've got to make the Sweet 16. So Princeton, you can see a very balanced team, 98th in terms of offensive efficiency, 105th on defense. But yes, I'm sure a lot of us are going to be having them losing right away. And then this is just an overall graph to take a look at the chances of the Elite Eight. You can see, looks like Creighton, because they do draw that matchup with Princeton, they have the highest chance out of anyone, 82% chance to make it to the Elite Eight. You've got Houston at around 80. Alabama, that kind of surprises me. They're down at 64% chance facing San Diego State. Tennessee up to 72% chance and a 50% chance. Wow. So Tennessee, a 50% chance to reach the Final Four according to these numbers. UCLA, 61% chance to the Elite Eight. UConn right around 70. Texas at 63. So Texas certainly could lose to Xavier. And then you can see Kansas State at around 50. That's a pure toss-up game there. So taking a look at some of those, like teams that I would not pick in terms of the Sweet 16, Florida Atlantic, Miami, Princeton. I am picking Xavier. I'm not picking Arkansas. I'm not picking Michigan State's interesting, man. They are. Like, you really can't. It's tough with Izzo because no matter what the numbers say, it just doesn't matter with him, especially in March. Gonzaga, 39% chance. They're just too bad on defense. San Diego State, I just can't pick them. Creighton, I'm very intrigued with them possibly knocking off Bama, at least making it to the Elite Eight. Texas, I have as kind of my upset in the Sweet 16, losing to Xavier. UConn, I think, is an auto lock to the Elite Eight. Then you've got UCLA. I like them in the Elite Eight. Tennessee, I like. Bama and Houston kind of as the overall pillars. Now looking at the games on Thursday and Friday analytically, UCLA versus Gonzaga. So this particular model absolutely loves Gonzaga, the 4th overall team. You can see it's basically a pick'em game. I like UCLA to win that game though. Next you have UConn and Arkansas. You've got UConn listed right around, I would say, 7-point favorites. So certainly I expect UConn and I would pick them to win that game. Tennessee and FAU. Tennessee and their defense, I like them over an FAU team who, you're facing a 16 seed in the second round. I know you got to win against Memphis, but you were losing with 5 seconds left. You had a walk-off layup. I don't know. I'll take Tennessee. Then you've got Michigan State and Kansas State, and that's a pure toss-up. I actually like Kansas State to win that game, but this is Izzo, guys. You know how it is. It's Russian roulette with that game left. Who knows? I mean, Kansas State has been better, I guess, but basically a complete pick'em. Next, you have Alabama and San Diego State happening Friday. So Bama sitting -5. Kind of surprises me. Bama's not more of a favorite, but San Diego State is liked by the analytics. Next, you have Houston and Miami. Houston sitting solidly as around 7.5, 8-point favorites in that one. Texas and Xavier, Texas 3-point favorites. Very close game expected. And then Creighton and Princeton, you're looking at Creighton minus about 8.5 points, maybe 9, versus the true Cinderella of 2023 Princeton University. And then these are just power rankings I'll react to before going to the official bracket. Bama at number 1. I can't argue it, honestly. I would probably go Houston 1, Bama 2, but the way they've been playing, I can't argue Bama at 1. At number 3, I would definitely disagree. I would probably put UConn at number 3, UCLA at number 4, and then maybe Texas at number 5 with Gonzaga at 6. And also I think Creighton is way too low. Tennessee is way too low. There's no way you can. My goodness, what are these? I'm not sure who did this. This might be a troll. You've got Creighton at number 12, Arkansas at number 7. Yeah, I don't know about FAU behind Princeton. I think that's just a little disrespectful. No, I think they just did that to be funny. They put Princeton at 15 and FAU at 16. Come on. It seems like people hate FAU now because they beat a 16 seed. They're like the enemy. San Diego State at 13 I think is disrespectful too. I would definitely have Miami lower. San Diego State at 14, I would probably have them at like 12. I would probably have Tennessee at like 7. I would have Arkansas a little bit lower. I would have Gonzaga a little bit lower. But that's just my opinion on those rankings. And then when it comes to the official strategy, filling out your second chance bracket, I'm just going to kind of roll through this, break down each one. Let's not try and reinvent the wheel. I understand what I did with my predictions because I really like Creighton, but certainly we're going to want to go with Bama over San Diego State. Creighton sitting as 10-point favorites. Unless you want to troll, I'm always open to that, of course, but I would pick Creighton to beat, imagine Princeton in the Final Four. But I would certainly pick Creighton there to beat Princeton, and then you've got Alabama versus Creighton. More times than not, I would say 7 out of 10 times this game is played, Bama wins it. Maybe I get lucky and Creighton wins it, but if I'm giving advice to people, I would say probably take Alabama, the 1 seed there. Looking at the next region, the East, FAU and Tennessee. I really like Tennessee here analytically. Just overall, I would go with them. And then Kansas State, Michigan State. It's a toss-up. It's whatever. Because in my personal bracket, I picked Kansas State. In this one, this is a different one I'm doing. I'm going to go with Michigan State. It's Izzo. It's March. Whatever, man. It's a toss-up. Who knows? And then looking at the Midwest, Houston, Miami. You got to trust Houston, man. You just got to trust them. We almost lost faith there. Auburn after that round 1 game. Hopefully Houston can hold on against a Miami team that's very bad defensively. My concern is that Miami dictates the pace of this game and pushes out to an early lead due to being up-tempo. Houston's a very slow team, so them coming back is going to be very hard. They need to keep this game at a lower pace, keep it lower scoring, and really drag Miami down, keep it into a half-court game. Next, you have Xavier in Texas. I think this game could go either way. I don't like either one of these teams to make the Final Four, so because in my other bracket I picked Xavier, I'm going to go Texas. I think this is another toss-up game, though, between these two teams. Very similar to the Kansas State and Michigan State game. Arkansas, UConn is not a toss-up. I think it is very clearly UConn's winning that game. I like them to cover the 3.5 or 4-point spread. And then Gonzaga, UCLA. To me, UCLA is just more deep. Gonzaga against TCU, not a great performance there. So I would recommend picking UCLA. I like UCLA even with the injuries. They're just a very solid team. They still have a lot of offensive firepower. They're still good enough defensively to get by Gonzaga. That's a fun West Coast matchup there. And then, I guess I already filled that out. So Bama, we got Tennessee versus Michigan State. So because I'm one of those people that I just don't think we get an all SEC matchup in the Final Four. So I'm going to go Michigan State. I'm going to balance this bracket a little bit. Tennessee is a team, yes, they're good, but they're not good on offense. So they can really lose to anyone, if that makes sense. So, it's Izzo, whatever. Michigan State, we'll go with them. Then you've got Houston, Texas. I'm still going with Houston there. I have to. And then you do have UConn versus UCLA. Now, I personally, this is pretty much a toss-up game. I would probably say take UConn in this game, honestly. But because I picked them already, I'm going to be picking UCLA in this one. But that's another toss-up game. I do like UConn. And then you've got Bama versus Michigan State. I would probably say take Bama. And then you have Houston versus UCLA. In this one, I'll go UCLA. But I do have Houston winning my national championship in my main bracket. And then for the national title, I'll go UCLA. Why not? Even with the injuries. And we're going to say how many points are scored. We're going to go a higher scoring game here. We're going to go 155 total points on that one. So that's just the overall analysis. When you're looking at from the West, Arkansas making a Cinderella run, I don't see it. I think they have a very tough path. Even if they somehow get past UConn, you're looking at Gonzaga or UCLA. Gonzaga, to me, is too flawed in terms of offense and defense. UConn and UCLA, those are the two teams that have sweet spots to where they're like top 15 in both offense and defense. The East is just crazy. FAU and Tennessee, I do see Tennessee winning that game. And then Kansas State, Michigan State, Russian roulette, it's a toss-up. And then Michigan State, Tennessee, I would say it's another toss-up. Tennessee is better, but does that really matter in March? I don't know. Especially with Tennessee being bad on offense. Alabama, Creighton, you could see an upset. I did predict an upset in my bracket. Again, this is a game 7 out of 10 times. Bama wins it if they have an off shooting night from 3 because they do rely on threes. I could see Creighton getting lucky and winning it and advancing to the Final Four. And then Houston and Texas. So this really game right here, I could very easily see Xavier winning. It's a toss-up. I have Xavier personally in my original bracket. And then I still do like Houston. I just trust Houston. They've been the best team in college basketball all year. We've kept the faith in them. And that is the overall bracket and kind of some tips and tricks for that. So guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.